Hi, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. I'm speaking to you from the Kiever synagogue, and I must tell you that it is extremely difficult for me to be able to address you without actually seeing you. It's a completely different experience for me, and I will do my best. This Shabbos is an incredibly special Shabbos. Now, I know you hear me say that very often, but it really is this time. It's Parshas Vayakhel and Pikiduei, which means it is Shabbos Chazak. It means that we conclude the whole book of Exodus, Shemos. It also means that this Shabbos is Parshas HaChodesh, which means that we read a special section from Parshas Boy, from the chapter 12 in Exodus, which speaks about how the Jewish people were preparing to leave Egypt. This is something that we read just before the new month of Nisan, which ushers in the month of redemption, where we celebrate the Jewish people going out of Egypt. And so on such an incredible Shabbos, when we have so much to read about and so much to talk about and so much to learn from, to not have everybody here in the synagogue is very, very difficult. And yet at the same time, we must look to this very Parsha to find an answer, to find some kind of guidance as to what we are to do in this situation. So let's have a look. Vayakhel Moshe came and he gathered the Jewish people the day after Yom Kippur. He gathered them to speak to them and to help them fix their relationship with God. This is after the terrible events where the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf. And Moses had to go up and entreat God and beg God for mercy and for forgiveness. And God ultimately did forgive them and said, Salachti kidvarecha, I have forgiven as your words, as Moses had asked. And now when Moses comes down, he comes and addresses the Jewish people and tells them about how they are now going to put into motion all those feelings of love towards God and remorse for their rejection to a certain degree of God. And what's the first thing he speaks about? The first thing he speaks about is Shabbos. He speaks to the Jewish people about the importance of Shabbos. What does this tell us? This tells us is that this Shabbos, it is extremely important for all of us to really think about our relationship with God. You see, there have been many videos going around this week, different rabbis speaking about what we can learn from the coronavirus and the impact that it's had on all of us. But there was one video that really hit me in my core. It really touched me. It really shook me up. And it was watching Rabbi Yossi Goldman, a rabbi of the Sydenham Synagogue in South Africa, as he tearfully approached the ark and asked God for forgiveness and for mercy and for compassion to help to cure all those people who have been affected by the coronavirus, and to protect all those who have not yet been affected by the virus, and to forgive us for being left with no choice but to close the synagogue and move our prayer services to our own homes. You see, what was so powerful about watching that was, it was the first video I saw where somebody really took into consideration not just how this is impacting all of us, but how this is impacting God. You see, the Talmud tells us, Galu l'shchina, when the people were Galu la'edom, Galu la'edom shchina imahim, that even though we were exiled to Edom, nevertheless, the Shekhinah is with us. The Shekhinah is exiled with us. And while the exile has been very painful for us, can we imagine what it's like for God to have to endure such an exile? And now while we don't understand, we don't fully understand, or we don't understand at all why we're in exile and why this is continuing for so long. But nevertheless, the impact of exile is not just on us, but it's also on God. And so I close my eyes and I think to myself, how is God going to feel this week when all the synagogues around the world are empty? How is God going to feel when he sees the lights are off in his house? I can't imagine how painful it is for a father, for our merciful Father, God in heaven, to see his children who want to be in his house being barred from entry into his house. And so the only option is to welcome God in off the streets. God is, so to speak, homeless. God doesn't have any sanctuary in which he can go to today. And so it is your obligation, it is my obligation to transform our home into a mini sanctuary and to transform it into a place of holiness and light and beauty where God can feel comfortable. And what we find in this week's Parsha, to get towards the end in Parshas Pikiduei, it says that Moses looked, this is again in Exodus chapter 39, verse 43, it says, Moses saw the entire work, and behold, they had done it as God had commanded. So had they done. And Moses blessed them. And Rashi tells us, what did Moses bless them? So he said, may it be God's will that the Shekhinah rest upon your handiwork. And the verse, may the pleasantness of my Lord, our God, be upon us, our handiwork. May he establish for us our handiwork. May he establish, which is from Psalm 90, verse 17, is what Moses actually said to the Jewish people. And so I am sure that through our collective efforts, each one individually, doing everything in their power to try and keep this Shabbos in the best possible way that they can, making sure that you have a siddur in your house before Shabbos so that you do not have to go online to find a prayer, making sure that you have kiddush, wine, to be able to make the blessing, the benediction, to usher in the Shabbos, and making sure that you have challah, and making sure that you have a table set for Shabbos, making sure that you light candles at the right time, making sure that your house is prepared, not just physically, but also spiritually, to welcome God into your home, then we will merit, I am sure, to that which we read at the end of the book of Exodus, at the end of this week's Parsha, Parshas Pikiduei, where it says in verse 34, chapter 40, verse 34, it says, the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of God filled the tabernacle. And what that means is that God will come and enter into each of our homes and fill our homes with his radiance. And ultimately, we will all merit to be taken together with all of our brethren throughout the world, back to the Holy Land, the land of Eretz Yisrael, with the coming of Mashiach, speedily in our days. Amen.